So I just watched the latest Pixar film Elio, directed and co-written by Adrian Molina, Madeline Sharafian, and Domi Shi, alongside Julia Cho, Mark Hamill, Mike Jones, Jesse Andrews, and Hannah Friedman. I apologize if I mispronounced any of those names. It's highly likely that I butchered at least one of them. So I have to admit, when I first heard about this movie during Disney's D23 presentation back in 2022, I was honestly pretty excited. Like the whole concept of just a kid getting abducted, getting mistaken for the leader of Earth seemed like a lot of fun to me. I thought this is going to be really cool. And I was admittedly a little worried when the initial teaser came out back in, I want to say, 2023, and it did not look that great. And then there was the movie getting delayed and getting extensively reworked, which I thought this could either be really good or really bad, because either they could fix it or they could mess it up even more. I wasn't sure which direction they were going to go with that. And now that I've actually seen it, I have to say, this was good. I liked this. I will admit it starts out a little meh at first, but it's one of those movies that gets better as it goes on, and ultimately it finds its footing by the end. So first, like obvious compliment, the animation is great. Like it's a Pixar film, so like obviously the animation is great. Like even when they're still on Earth, I think the animation looks good. But it definitely gets really creative when they go to the alien hub, the communiverse as they call it. There's a lot of creative designs for the aliens, a lot of great looking environments. There's this great action scene in the third act that involves a debris field, which is all I'll say. And throughout the film, I think the cartoony animation that this film goes for, that is a bit reminiscent of Luca and Win or Lose, it definitely leads to some very funny slapstick comedy and some very funny facial expressions. And speaking of funny, I think overall this is a funny movie. Like not every joke works, but I think most of them at least got a chuckle out of me. There were definitely some very enjoyable moments of dark humor, believe it or not. Like there's some moments where like I'm laughing and I'm also thinking, wow, this is a PG Disney movie. Okay. Like it's not like PG-13 levels of dark or anything, but for what PG means nowadays, it's kind of like, wow, kind of shocked that slipped by. There are some running gags that are really funny and they make me laugh every single time. And there are some running gags that never really made me laugh, but at the very least, they weren't annoying. Like, that's something I can say. Even the jokes that didn't land never annoyed me. They just kind of said them and then moved on to the next one, which is nice. It's not like it's one of those comedies where the bad jokes sort of drag on. Elio himself, I thought, was a very likable main kid character. I thought he was like, they made him odd, but like in a relatable and understandable way. Like, you get why he likes aliens as much as he does. There are actually multiple points in the film that I was kind of comparing him to Lilo, but like in a positive way where it didn't feel like a ripoff and more felt like just like inspiration. I liked the friendship that forms between Elio and Glordon. Like it felt like a very believable friendship between two kids. A majority of the acting was good. Particular standouts, I would say, are the actors for Elio and Glordon, Jonas Kibrabe and Remy Edgarly. Again, sorry if I butchered those names. And all the other actors were good. The only one who weirdly I felt was kind of phoning it in was Zoe Saldana. Like I normally really like her. Like she was great in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, but here it just kind of felt like she was saying her lines and that's really it. Kind of disappointed by that. And I kind of wish America Ferrara had been able to stay attached to the project because I would have really liked to have seen her take on the character. I think she would have done a better job. The film it made good use of reincorporation of certain elements from the beginning that are then brought back later. There are some good emotional moments here. There was one moment in particular in the third act where I actually ended up bumping up the movie's score a little bit. Like I was kind of riding between two different scores throughout most of the movie, unsure which one to give it. But then one scene at the end in particular cemented it for me and made me go, okay, this is getting the higher grade. And with it's like a scene where, without going into spoilers, there are two characters who like don't have the little translator things that allow Elio to understand all the aliens. And believe it or not, I actually think the scene works even better because of that. Like, it's actually even more effective when it's just going off of like the character's facial expressions and body language. It worked really well. The villain in this was fine. It wasn't bad. He was just kind of like, you've definitely seen this type of villain before, like the evil dictator type guy who also is like, they try to have jokes with how evil he can be at points. I will admit he is made better by moments that make it clear that he actually cares about his son. Like, if they had just made him like a generic bad father who learns his lesson by the end, it would have been even worse. But like, he is definitely improved because early on they make it clear he isn't just like throwing his son's concerns away. He actually does care about his son, which is nice. And speaking of like parental figures, I did not like the aunt Olga at the beginning. Like, she was making some kind of unlikable decisions where it's like, I get that you don't know how to raise a kid, but come on. I feel like at this point it's like, why was this at some points I was kind of asking in the first half hour, why was this kid even trusted to you? Without going into spoilers, I thought, oh, is this gonna go live action Lilo and Stitch route where forget family, just do whatever you want. But thankfully, she does get better as the movie goes on. She makes decisions that make me realize she actually really does care about Elio, and we get to see more of a positive side to her as the film goes on, which is nice. I ended up liking her by the end, even if Zoe Saldana's performance was kind of whatever. And another aspect I want to get into without getting into spoilers, there is a character in this that is very similar to V from the Owl House. If you've seen the film, you know, I think you know exactly who I'm talking about because I'm not the first to make this comparison. I know that for a fact. I liked the character overall. I thought they were cool, and I thought they were actually pretty funny throughout the film. And I thought they were going to give this character like an ending similar to V's from the Owl House. And they went in a different direction, again, without getting into spoilers, that I wasn't a big fan of. I was kind of like, I don't know, I was kind of wishing you had gone the other direction. But at least it gave us another great, dark, non-family friendly scene, which was actually both kind of scary but funny too. The movie, like, one more compliment I'll give before I start getting into the negatives, and this is kind of a compliment criticism ish. The movie had a brisk pace, and it felt like pretty much exactly 90 minutes. And on the one hand, this worked because it didn't feel like the movie was overstaying its welcome. And there were definitely scenes that I feel like a film that was longer would have dragged on more, and I would have been like, oh my gosh, I get it. But a lot of the scenes here are just as long as they need to be. But there are admittedly some scenes where it feels like it would have benefited from like more time, like soaking in the environment or a character's emotions. Like, for example, the way that they show Elio first arriving on the alien base and seeing everything is in a montage, and it feels like another movie would have it feels like another movie would have shown like it would have held longer on these scenes, and it would have felt like it was giving more of an impact to each location he sees. But as is, it's just kind of like, oh, here's this, here's that, here's this, here's that. Okay, we're done. It's like that didn't really have much of an impact, I have to admit. And there are a few scenes like that in the film where it feels like they should have held on something a bit longer. And now I kind of have to get into some criticisms that I have. They use the liar revealed story. Like, I feel like you kind of know going in to this film that is going to happen at some point, so I don't consider that a spoiler. I won't get into the specifics. I'll just say there is a liar revealed story here, and I just hate this kind of story. Like, it's like we've done it so many times, and every single time you know exactly how it's going to resolve. And it's not done horribly here. Like the scene, like the part where characters usually moping and doping for like up to like 10, 15 minutes. It's only a few minutes here before they move on to the next thing. Again, kind of an advantage of the brisk pace this movie has. But it just still feels like such an uncreative way to move the story along. Like, I feel like there's other things they could have done other than the thing you've seen every single lie revealed story do. Like, it feels like there's other ways they could have moved the story forward after that. There were some weird Stephen King esque bullies at the beginning of the film. Like, I don't know, like like I know bullies aren't usually the most well developed characters, but these bullies, I was just kind of like, this feels like some of the more generic bullies you see in like a Stephen King story. I was like, what is happening? There's some weird points where the frame rate slows down. I don't know if this is the movie itself or just where I saw it, like if it was my theater, because it did feel kind of inconsistent when it would happen, but it also kind of happened when there was a lot, at some points when there was a lot going on in the film, so maybe they did it intentionally to sort of let everything soak in. I'm not sure. I guess we'll see when I end up watching the film on home media, because I'm definitely getting this when it comes out on Blu ray. And one last thing is that, again, tying into the brisk pace, the movie has a very abrupt beginning, and there's a lot of exposition at the beginning. Like, there's a line a character says to introduce us to the main character, and I was like, yeah, that's not how people talk. Nobody says that. And the ending is also very abrupt. Like, this is one of those movies where it feels like an epilogue showing the character's life now would have been nice instead of just kind of stopping very abruptly. Like, it felt a little bit unsatisfying in terms of just not getting to see more. But as is, I did still like it. Like, this isn't, I don't think this is going to go down as like a Pixar classic or anything. But I do think it is still better than like most animated films released nowadays, especially some of the ones they got coming up. If you look at what movies are coming up. And I definitely hope that more people go to see this, because this does not deserve to be Pixar's latest box office bomb. It deserves to be better remembered than that. And I'm going to give Elio a B. One last thing I will say, I hope they include some scenes from the original version of the film before it got retooled on the Blu-ray. I do think it would be interesting to see what it was originally like compared to what it like ended up as. I think that would be interesting, and I hope they include that somewhere on a special features. So those are my thoughts on Elio. If you've seen the film, be sure to let me know what you thought down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe to see more reviews like this in the future. And on that note, I will see you next time. Have a great day.